Let's go ahead and get started. Cheyenne typed your message. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to practice learning how to graph point slope form. So point slope form graphing is just like slope intercept form, only now instead of having a y-intercept, we also have just a point and a slope, okay? So the first thing that you want to do, step one, is to identify the point. So just like what we practiced when we pull the point out, that's exactly what we're going to do when we graph. So all of the skills that we have previously learned kind of come together, like everything goes together. It's not a separate idea. So we've practiced pulling points out of the equation. We've practiced putting points into the equation. Now we're going to practice putting points on the graph. So the first thing to do is identify the point. So what is our point for our equation? Y minus 3 equals negative 2/3 parentheses x plus 2. What is our point? I need my x1, y1 value. Okay, negative 2, positive 3. Good job. Now, remember, which all of us did, was when we pulled the point out, we did the opposite of what it looks like. Remember, our equation has minuses in there. So our point slope is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So when you pull the points out, notice how this one looks positive. It's really a negative because the only way to make a negative a positive is with another negative. So step one is to identify the point. Step two is to plot the point. So instead of us doing a y-intercept and graphing the y-intercept, we're actually going to plot the point. So this is why pulling the point out correctly makes a huge difference. We want to make sure we get the correct negative and positive signs, because if we don't, we're going to graph it wrong. So negative 2, 3, I go in the x direction, negative 2, and then up 1, 2, 3. So once I identify the point, my next step is to plot it. It's located right here. Now, on IXL, it'll plot the point, and then it will automatically connect your line when you graph slope. I've got protractors. If you want to use them, we can use those. So identify the point, plot the point. Step 3 is to identify the slope. So what is the slope of our equation? Negative 2/3. Let's write the meaning in words. So what does that mean, negative 2/3 in slope terms? Down 2. And if you don't want to write down, you can always just put an arrow down. That's fine too. So down 2, then what? Right 3. Good job. I'm glad that we didn't say over 3, because over could mean left or right. So you can write the word down or right, or use arrows to symbolize direction. Okay? So once we identify the slope, how do we think we're going to graph it? Where do I start graphing it? At the point. So remember how when we graphed y equals mx plus b, we graphed at the y-intercept? Now we have a point that we must start at. So we have identified the slope. Step 4 is from the point, because you have to start at the point you plotted. Count and plot slope.
Is that the last step?
Yes.
It's nothing out.
That's okay.
Why do you write so big?
He can write big, it's fine. We got plenty of paper. So once we plot our point, you must then plot the slope, okay? So my slope is down 2, right 3. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Count and plot the slope. Once you count and plot it, then you can connect it. So on a virtual quiz, which we will practice plotting some points before we take our actual test. Yours will be on paper. Online, guys, yours will be on the computer. So we will practice together how to properly do this. On your test, on the computer, if you're taking it virtually, you don't have to connect the dots because it's a pain, but in person you will. So does everybody want protractors? Okay. They are all sanitized and ready to go. All right. So now all you have to do is connect. So our final step, if you want to write it, you can, but obviously we're just going to connect. That's it. So graphing it is just as easy as slope-intercept form, only instead of me just having a clear-cut y-intercept, we just have to do a little detective digging and pull out the point. But once you get the point, you plot it, plot the slope, you're done. So take a second and try 2 and 3. So the point on number 2 is -3, 5, because the 3 looks positive and the 5 looks negative, but remember it's the opposite sign. So -3, 5, I go left 3 and then up 5. My slope is -1/3, which means I go down 1 and right 3, and then I can connect. Number 3, my point is -2, 2. I go up 1 and right 2. Is there anything I can clarify, or where are the mistakes that you're making that you would like another explanation to? The hardest part is pulling the points out. Is there anything I can correct, or you're confused on anything? It's okay if you are. Just tell me. Okay, the things we need to remember. The most important thing when identifying the point in the equation, use the opposite sign. That is the most important thing. You will do everything right. We're good at graphing slope. We've practiced plenty of times graphing slope. You'll do great on that. But you'll mess up if you pull out the points and don't do the opposite sign. So pull the point out, do the opposite sign, and then you'll be just fine. Slope is exactly how it looks. But when you're identifying the point in the equation, use the opposite sign, because the negatives will change the sign. So you'll do everything right, but mess that little piece up, and then you get a totally different graph.